We are live. Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Can from TubeBuddy, and I'm joined with.
Oh, Luria Petrucci. Hi. I totally failed.
If
I was.
people doubted it was live, they'll know now.
Hey everyone, I'm a dork and I'm Luria Petrucci from Live Streaming Pros. Welcome to the stream.
So, today we're going to be discussing all things live streaming because we get a lot of questions here from TubeBuddy, and who better to ask live streaming questions from than the pros? So, we have live streaming pros here, and I'm really excited because we have some questions already, but we want questions from you. So, if you guys have any questions, please be sure to ask with the hashtag question in chat. We'll put you on screen. And I see one here from our good friend Rob, who asks, how far ahead do you schedule your live streams?
That's a good question. So, scheduling, it comes in a couple of different forms for me. So we actually are live 4 days a week. So what we do for our audience is I have a calendar that we update, a Google Calendar that people can put in their own calendar so they don't miss a show and they know what's coming up. We also have a page on our website that shows the entire next week's shows, or further if we have those scheduled out. And then also in terms of actually scheduling on YouTube or Facebook, even, that actually happens the day of, just because we are live 4 days a week. However, for most people, if you're going to go live once a week, I would highly suggest promotion at least 2 to 3 days is a good average, that doesn't like forget that people don't forget a week ahead of time, and then it's not too soon for people to put it in their own schedules.
And I think that's a good idea to just have, especially depending the platform, to have a different schedule depending, because I think so many people, they just think in terms of YouTube, but there are different platforms you can go live to, and it's a good idea to try to experiment. You never know what might work for them.
Exactly. Yeah. And when we're talking promotion, I mean, and scheduling and all of that, you also have to think about everything else that you can do. It's not just about scheduling on YouTube. It's also about sending an email out. It's about sending, social promotions out. And you have all of these things that you can put in your rotation. But each one of those things is going to work effectively on a different schedule, and you have to look at your audience and figure out what's going to be best for them, because my audience needs a 20 to 30 minute audio email in advance, but other audiences need an hour to 24 hours, so you do have to play.
And I think that's important, is getting to know the strength of your audience. I want to
Yeah.
kind of take a look at that from the other way, right? Some people who are developing audiences are interested in live streaming. So I guess, what would you say is a good time to start streaming? This comes from some of the questions we got before. And a lot of people think are looking for like an X number of subscribers, but what would you recommend for when they should start live streaming?
Well, I think we have to back that question up a bit and
Okay.
talk about the strategy that you're putting out on YouTube, right? So if you have, if it, depending on the type of content that you're trying to put out, that determines whether you should be streaming from the get go or streaming way down the line.
For sure.
So, to break that down a little bit, there are different kinds of content that you can create in terms of live streams, right? One of them can be tutorial based, how to content, perfect time for keyword research and planning that out so that people, or so that YouTube knows you're delivering content that people want. And if you're doing that kind of stream, you can start super early in your audience development. And in fact, if you don't care about the vanity of no numbers and no live viewers at first, then you can do content that's keyword researched, planned, and prepped, and deliver that as if it were a regular video. And then YouTube will actually see that, because they'll promote you live if you have nailed down that keyword research, right? So, and maybe Andrew, you can speak to that a little bit more.
I think that especially when it comes to like preparation and doing the research beforehand, because we were getting a couple of questions about it, like
Mhm.
you should always do any sort of research. And I really like how you were phrasing that, right? Like, first, does your content warrant going live, right?
Right.
Because a lot of people are like, I want to go live, but sometimes it doesn't make sense to go live. For
Yeah.
example, I've seen some channels in TubeBuddy that they do time lapses of painting walls and stuff. And I'm not saying that people necessarily don't want to watch paint drying live, but it's a common joke of it's like watching paint dry. So
Hmm.
I think some content kind of lends itself better for live. And
Yeah.
what we find is if you look at how YouTube like sorts, it does preference live streams a little bit higher in search because it's technically going to be a little more relevant.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean it's going to stay as high
No.
ranking, but it does mean that it gives you a little bit of a boost. So it kind of depends the kind of area. So we actually got a question, talking about which kinds of content lends themselves to live. This comes
Yeah.
from Crooked Hat Man. They said, I've heard some impressive stats like YouTube creators can see 60% plus increase in viewership by streaming, especially for gaming content. If you're trying to go, is streaming for you? So they're wondering, does it make sense for gaming content to stream? And I
Yeah.
guess, what is your opinion? I know I have mine, but I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I mean, gaming streaming is definitely one of the most popular types of streams these days, especially now that Mixer is shut down and a lot of Mixer streamers are going to either Twitch or YouTube. They're bypassing Facebook altogether, it seems. But yeah, so if you're gaming, then you can grow your channel through those games for sure. Also, one of the things that you need to think about is streaming right for you. Are you willing to engage with the audience? And that kind of touches base on the other type of stream strategy that you can have, and that's community, right? And so gaming and community go hand in hand, and a lot of other kinds of content can go hand in hand with streaming where it can be effective for growth. But if you are going to have a community driven show and a strategy around that, then you can hang out with your viewers. You can create that loyalty and that conversation that is so effective for your growth, and for getting people to come back over and over and over. But when it comes to like, okay, are you going to game? Are you going to do community based stuff? You have to be willing to actually push yourself to get engaged on camera, which is where most people go wrong because they're not willing to put themselves out there in a big vulnerable way. They're not willing to amp up their energy. And those are some of the things that will be really beneficial for you and streaming in order to make it effective.
And I think that's talking about not only doing a stream, but the performance aspect of a stream, because it is a performance, right?
Yeah,
Anytime we go in front of a camera, some people think performance. I'm not being genuine if it's a performance, but that's not
right.
what it means.
Not at
It
all.
means that, and I'm sure you realize this too, sometimes, especially if you go live for 24 hours, the stream, the camera can like drain some of the natural like charisma you may have. So I think a reminder that if you're going to do like say gaming, it's important to keep in mind you do need to not only be maybe at least somewhat good at the game, but you need to be engaged too.
You can
And I
either
think that's
be
important.
somewhat good at the game or you can be terrible like me.
I am right there with you.
And just make a big deal of how bad you are. I don't know. I think it could work. But yes, you have to be willing to engage with the audience if you're going for that more conversation feel, right? And again, just to come back to kind of what we were talking about before, you've got the strategy of actually preparing your shows, having how to or education kind of value. And that alone can be done with or without engagement
For
because you
sure.
may not have viewers right at first. But then as you grow your channel, that's when you should start looking at, more community based content like Q&As. Don't do Q&As when you don't have an audience, please. Please.
Well, it
No.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I see that is a very common thing. It's like I just hit 50 subscribers going live to do a Q&A, and it's like I think a better use of that time would be creating more content so that when you build your audience and you really focus down on what you want to do, they can ask you better questions.
Yeah.
Because I think that, any new creator should understand what they want to do, because I know a lot of people are afraid to start with a plan in mind, even when it comes to content. But I think streaming, especially having a plan, can help you go even further.
Yeah, for sure. And, obviously, when you're just starting, it's going to take some time to figure out your niche and your value and the things that you really bring to the table that are what I call uniquely you. And that's part of this process. So you have to be willing to kind of go through that. But having a plan, like you're saying, at least gets you started in the right direction.
Yes. So, speaking of planning, one of the questions we got a little bit earlier was from people asking, how often should I go live? What's too much? What would you recommend if they have an established audience, they want to go live, but they're not sure the frequency? So, what would you recommend?
Well, so since you're a gamer, Marquis, that's a different answer than anyone else. So anyone listening who's not gaming, please, I'll answer for you in a second.
Okay.
Because gaming requires a lot more content,
For
and a
sure.
lot more often. And I think YouTube kind of follows the same rules as Twitch and the old mixer, where when you're gaming, if you're going to grow your channel, gaming viewers, or yeah, game viewers are interested in a lot for long periods of time. And that is what tends to help grow a channel. You may have different, that's what I see. You may have different stats on that, Andrew, and I'd love to hear. But for gamers, you kind of have to go a lot, at like 3-4 days a week for 4 to 8 hours a day.
What we've seen is pretty much the same. Like, YouTube gaming first is a subsect of YouTube and it's its own beast. So
Right.
while most standard YouTube rules apply, if you plan to be an exclusive streamer of gaming content, this is, again, as you said, for gaming channels, it depends how what your audience is willing to watch too. Because if you're streaming for 5 hours and you start that first hour with like 100, and then by hour two you're down to 10,
Right.
maybe you look at how the audience is naturally reacting. Look at that concurrent viewership, which I think, especially for gaming channels,
Yeah,
is very important.
for sure. And outside of gamers,
Exactly.
the answer to that is, once a week it is pretty consistently across YouTube the best answer. I go live 4 days a week and it works for our channel, but we are a live streaming channel. So, there are some give and takes there that you have to consider.
For sure. And like, if TubeBuddy goes live 4 times a week, people would be like, Andrew, are you okay? So it really does depend the audience.
Yeah. And one of the things that you can do is start with once a week, because honestly, most people aren't going to be able to hold on to a 5 day a week, schedule for a long period of time. Now, one of the things that I constantly harp on is actually, so I have a challenge that I do twice a week, twice a year, called Lita, live every day in April and live every day in August. And so we have our Lita challenge coming up in August, and we encourage people to go live 31 days in a row. However, we do that in a private environment just to get you good at live and to get you comfortable and confident on camera, right? And so that kind of thing can really be beneficial, whether you do it in a private challenge or whether you do it on your own channel. However, it can also, if you do that on a YouTube channel, and you're not planning on making that your thing, where your channel is live every day, then it could also be harmful as well. So you have to kind of think about that strategy.
And I think that's important to remember. Again, we keep going back to strategy because just of how important it is. And if you would like to expand your strategy, maybe try Lita, you can check out Live Streaming Pros in the description. We have linked to their channel, and you can see Alita battle angels of the streaming world. If you get that joke, I'm glad you got it. But hey, you set it up. I wanted to just say it.
I like
Someone
it.
out there will appreciate it.
I
But
got to use that. I'm still.
you're good. So this comes from 3D Print Creator, and they're saying, how does going live help you with getting the minimum required time for monetization? So they're talking about the YouTube platform. We're a YouTube extension. So they're talking about that 4,000 hours of watch time that's required by YouTube, also the 1,000 subscribers. So they're wondering, how does going live help get those watch time hours?
Well, so people will watch live longer than they will recorded. And again, I would love to hear your thoughts from the analytical perspective of this as well, Andrew. But when you are live and you can keep people's attention live, then it will actually keep people on that channel longer. You'll get more of that watch time over time. And so, yeah, I'll let you take it away.
No, for sure. If you can get people watching, which is the biggest hurdle, right?
Yeah,
Because one of the things you have to keep in mind, especially for YouTube, is the topic interesting to what your audience subscribed
exactly.
for. So, yes, for sure, live streams can help you earn longer watch time, but just like a normal YouTube video, it's up to you, the creator, to convince them to want to watch the live stream. What's
Yeah.
the value for the viewer? And I guess that is a really good question for you, is how do you make sure you're providing value in your live streams? What are some things you think about when it's like, okay, I want to make sure there's value here? What are those steps you take?
Well, one of the things that I do is I go live to ask questions of them, right? Instead of them asking me questions, well, kind of a back and forth. I'm always, always, always paying attention to what they are asking, whether that comes from a live stream, social posts, email support, whatever, wherever, all my recorded video comments. We track all of that so that we are paying attention to what our audience needs. And that takes time, but you know what you're trying to give in terms of value, then you need to match that with what people are actually asking you. And you have to get out of your own way a lot of times, because what you want to provide isn't always necessarily exactly what people want from you. And so a lot of times we have to take our ego out of the way and just match that, but also give a little bit of what we want as well. So there's a balancing art, effect there.
And I think that's a balance act you have to find with the content you create normally, right? Like, is this a content
Absolutely.
for the main core audience on YouTube, also known as hub content, or is this content designed to build and bring more people into what we're trying to do? For example,
Yeah.
this live stream, from a search perspective, if you're watching the replay, welcome, is going to serve in a way for us to let this be, if people want to learn how and when to start streaming, we have a resource from TubeBuddy that also directs to your channel. So, thinking of that viewer value first, that's something we immediately thought of because we get a lot of questions
Yeah.
about live streaming. So having a resource with you and being able to point to the live streaming pros is great. So
Yeah.
there was even planning and value, going back to what we discussed earlier in this stream specifically.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that the more we think of value we bring, it doesn't need to just be in our content. It needs to be in our streaming. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yes. And in terms of getting people to stick around and get that watch time, et cetera, et cetera, one of the things, well, first, you need to pay attention to, are you engaging in order to get engagement? And are they actually engaging with you? On my channel, I have a video called 7 Rules for Engagement. And that goes down like tips for actually getting people to engage with you. So that might be something to dive into. But you can also do things like tease content that's coming up, right? So if we were to, structure this stream where we would say, at the end, we're going to give you the most valuable piece of information that you need to know if you're going to start streaming, and then we would tease that up front and throughout the stream to make sure people knew that that was coming. Because with live streaming, you have to remember people are coming and going constantly, and a new person coming in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes late then they don't know what's coming up. They haven't heard that. It's very different in terms of audience engagement or retention from that perspective versus a recorded video on YouTube.
Exactly. And it's so you guys don't have to go 7 clicks away to learn those 7 tips of engagement. You only have to go one. It's going to be in the description for
Woohoo!
the replay viewer. But also, as it was teased, stay around because apparently we
Oh.
have one big tip. I'm joking. One thing we talked about a bit off air is you also have to be able to have fun when you're
Yes,
doing this, right? Like if it's not fun at a
absolutely.
certain level, you want to enjoy yourself, especially when you're streaming, because I think people can feed off the energy of the hosts, right?
Oh, yes. So when live streaming is like the best place to have fun. In my personal opinion. I mean, things are going to go wrong. You can goof off. I opened this whole stream up completely incorrectly. I mean, everything can be fun and joyful as opposed to a disaster. Or if you're just concentrating on so hard on delivering the information and you're not having fun with it, then the audience isn't going to have fun with you, meaning they won't engage with you and they won't stick around. So the more enjoyment you have, and whatever that looks like for you. For us, it means I dance during my countdown timer, right? We have 10 minutes of countdown timer before the show begins. And we just put on some jams and we dance. And people love it. They show up 10 minutes early just to hang out with me during that countdown. Also, David with his bleep button. He loves that freaking bleep button and the sound effects. And that's his way of having fun, right? So everybody has a different way of having fun and enjoying the content they're creating. But if you're not doing that, then you're really not truly going to get the engagement you hope for.
And I think that is a good thing to mention. You talk about your thing that makes it fun for you. For me, that's terrible puns, and that works.
Yes,
But
totally.
this question comes from Trev's Travels by Narrow Boat, and it's a pretty frequent question we got. And he's saying that I have 989 subs, and I'm thinking of doing a live stream at 1,000. First of all, early congratulations.
Yes.
He wanted to thank everyone for getting the 1,000 subs. Is that a good idea to do a stream to say thank you for 1,000 subscribers? What do you think
Yes.
about doing streams for milestones?
I love it. So, because one thing that you can do is so people want to join live streams, right? If they like your content, they want to see you on a live stream. I've only encountered one channel that wasn't the case for. And that was a weird one. So, like you can get your audience excited, and it's a process of what I call building buzz, right? So you're building buzz towards this milestone, but also this live stream. So in your videos leading up to it, or in the community tab or social or whatever, you say, hey, if once we get to 1,000, I'm going live. And then you start promoting that day and time so that people show up. Give them a way to get alerts from you, whether that's through an email list or messenger bot, or SMS alerts or something where you can be like, hey, sign up for this because we're going to go live and we are going to hang out together. Get them excited to hang out with you. And I think that's a wonderful idea.
And I love that, building the hype, getting them
Mm-hmm.
excited. And I think that's something you have to keep in mind is that people are giving you that valuable time to be with you for long hours for streaming. So build hype, give them a reason to stay. And I love that.
Absolutely.
Our next question comes from Sandancer86, which I like that name.
I like that name too.
How can you get more viewers for makeup live streams? And would Twitch be a good platform for that? So they're wondering, how can we build interest? How can we get people excited for a makeup live stream?
Well, just like you would with a recorded video too, right? I mean, really a lot of things when it comes to building an audience are going to kind of fall the same in recorded and live, and there are some differences. But for makeup live streams, absolutely Twitch or YouTube could be a fantastic platform for you. And it's about creating the content people want at the end of the day, right? So if people are going to I don't know if you have an audience already on YouTube, if that's something that you've been doing recorded videos of, but look for trends in the makeup world, which I am such a not girly girl. Like I spend 5 minutes in the makeup. Like if I spend more than 5 minutes doing my makeup, I'm like bored to death. But so I don't know what kind of thing to kind of suggest here, but look for trends, things that people are doing, techniques that people are interested in at the moment, and invite people to watch you, but also ask questions about that. If you can get them excited about being able to ask somebody one-on-one throughout that process of the tutorial, like for me, okay, here's a perfect example. You know when women have like the line and it kind of goes like up, like I don't know what that's called, but I'm always jealous of women like that. I know, right? Andrew, come on, you should know this.
Well, believe it or not, my tips aren't that good. But my fox
You
eyeline tips are
cheated.
even worse.
Oh,
But
you
you know,
cheated, didn't you?
but you see, that's what I like about live. You can surprise people.
So yeah, like I would love to join a live stream about that because I'd be like, I don't get it. Tell me what I'm doing wrong because I cannot do it for the life of me.
And you know, one thing I like about streaming live is you can kind of like problem solve too. So like if I were to
Yeah.
tackle this as someone who clearly knows his makeup, obvious
Obvious, way more than I do.
I would say think about it from going back to that scheduling point. If you're a makeup channel, maybe if you want to go on Twitch, you can be like, hey, if you guys like my get ready with me's or whatever you're doing on your channel, I also go live on Twitch where you can ask questions about makeup with me, or even if you want to do it on your YouTube channel. So it really just depends. I'm seeing a couple of people are saying that it's winged eyeliner, wingtip is even better. Wow, Andrew. Hey, I have a girlfriend and I pay attention sometimes. That's what I've learned.
Wow, I'm impressed.
But people, the people's bookkeeper is like your face. But I do want to say, you know, we have been getting a lot of compliments of your hair. So I just wanted to
Well,
say for
thank
everyone
you.
who's been putting that out there. But, you know, I think when we comes to that scheduling, that planning, I think that could work, especially.
Yeah.
But here's a question for you. You know, if that person is doing like, let's say they're doing like 4 times a month, they're doing a get ready with me, or they're applying makeup, would it make sense to go live on that channel, or would it make more sense to do a live stream exclusive channel? What are your thoughts there?
I think it depends heavily on what your audience is expecting from you, right? Because if they're expecting, short form content and they're not interested in those live streams, and the only way to know that is to test it and to ask them and to invite the conversation. But I wouldn't start a second channel unless you have a large audience that you can split. That's my personal opinion because people have suggested that to us, and I'm like, that doesn't feel right because then you're having to grow two audiences at the same time, which, as we know, is just freaking difficult.
Yeah, and I think that when you split a channel, it can be even more challenging because sometimes what we tend to see is that you may like enjoying live streams more than you did your main channel, but people can subscribe for different reasons on each channel.
Yeah.
So while there are some success cases, one that comes to mind is Viper or the Man About Tech from Vipe Live. He has his own streaming channel and his main channel. I think it really depends. If maybe you want to create like more of a show, a second channel can be good, but it really comes down to what you want people to come to your channel for. Like
Yeah.
my channel name is my name, Andrew Can, right? So people come for the filmmaking, but they also can come for YouTube live help. So I think it really just depends.
Yeah.
It comes down to what, again, that value you're presenting. And I like that your stance is, and I think it's important to remember, is that you would be fracturing your audience.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's a benefit to it, a slight benefit, but I don't think that there's a big enough benefit for most people.
Fair. So I guess this is kind of in the same vein. This comes from Austin. His question is, if you have a large Instagram following, what's the best way to get them over to YouTube without being annoying? So I guess the question is, how do you get people from one platform to another? The age-old question, I like to say.
Yeah. FOMO. The fear of missing out really is where it's at in terms of getting people to transfer one platform or another. And you're never going to get everybody to do so. It's just not going to happen because some people are loyal to a particular platform, and you have to create interest and a fear of missing out on something that isn't on Instagram channel. So if you have a large following on Instagram and you want people to show up live, what are you not doing on Instagram that you can say, hey, by the way, over on my YouTube channel, I've got this going on and I don't do that here on Instagram for XYZ reason. Come on over and hang out with us, and then doing a combination of stories, posts, going live on Instagram to engage people, to get them to come over, right? So there's a one strategy that I use for Facebook a lot, which can work the same way on any platform, is if somebody has a large personal profile audience, and they want to get people over to their Facebook page, for instance, where they really need to kind of have a bigger audience, then what I'll do is I'll have them set aside their phone. They're going live kind of behind the scenes, and you see some of the stands, you see lights or whatever. You're not really close to the presenter, to you. So the viewer is kind of seeing this behind the scenes aspect where you're actually talking to the YouTube audience in this case, but the Instagram audience is feeling left out. And you kind of like, over here, like, it's called the cheap seats is what I call it, because you're like, hey guys, you're in the cheap seats over there, get your butt on over to YouTube so that we can hang out and I can actually see your comments, because it's so far away, my eyes are just not that good. Get your butt over here, so then you kind of use that as a fun way of FOMO.
I like that a lot because I think one person that does it very well is Rob, who is in the chat. He will post that he's going streaming or he's going to be someplace. And like, if you know Rob, you know he's doing a million things at once. Shout outs to Rob. But it's interesting because I realize he does that very well, where it's like you don't want to miss him going here. So I think that fear of missing out it is something you can definitely use to your advantage. Now, another thing to keep in mind is if that they came to you for Instagram, it depends. Are they liking maybe just your photos? Because there are some people who they may only like your photos, and that's okay. What is your Instagram about? And I think that is important as well. Speaking of like intentionality with your content, I'm seeing we're getting a lot of comments about keywords. If you guys are interested, you guys can check out TubeBuddy.com/101. And Rob, if you could link that in the chat, that's a place where we talk about all things keywords. But this stream's particular, because I see we have a bunch of people asking about keywords, is all about live streaming, right? So while there is, and definitely it's important to talk about keyword research when you're doing live streams, I think that it's important to remember this stream in particular is going to be about that live streaming. How do you deal with personally when people come to your stream? Because this is a question we got and it just kind of naturally fits. What do you do when people come to your stream for one thing, but you want to do another? What do you recommend then?
So because we do 4 days a week, we have that a lot actually. So we have 2 Q&A sessions a week. And then I also have more specific training sessions. So Tuesday and Fridays are our live Q&As. And then Wednesdays and Thursdays, I'm doing tutorial strategy-based training. And so that's a very specific topic 2 days a week. Because people know we have Q&As, or just if they happen to find us, they're always asking just random questions in our chat room. And so the way we deal with that is our moderators are actually in the chat room talking and tagging those specific people, saying, hey, just so you know, we're focused on this particular topic today. However, we have Tuesdays and Fridays open Q&As. So come join us then. And sometimes, depending on how loose the training is, I may do Q&A, general Q&A at the end. And I'll communicate that with the audience at the beginning or in the middle of the stream as well, whatever I'm going to plan to do.
And I think that makes sense. And first, shout outs to the moderators, the unsung hero of any live stream.
Seriously.
Thank you to our mod team.
Amazing. And I know that a lot of people, when we say, we have moderators and stuff, that feels overwhelming to a lot of people just starting. They're like, well, I don't have moderators. If you don't have moderators, first of all, don't worry about it. You can do this without moderators because you can communicate whatever you're seeing asked in the chat room live. But also, too many people are afraid to ask their community to help them out
Hmm.
because you think that that's going to be a burden on them. But if you're doing your job right and you're getting an audience who loves you for you and they love your content and they're just coming back over and over, those are the perfect people to become moderators for your channel. And it's okay to ask people for their help. They're going to be more than glad to do so if they love your channel.
Exactly. And I think that's actually one of the questions is how do I get mods? And I think you handled that beautifully. See, that's what having a good guest can do. Saves you time from asking questions.
Bam,
But
bam,
well,
bam.
hey, I appreciate it.
I
But
didn't
I
know that was
think
a question.
no, it was, and that that was gonna. Hey, if you got it, I don't mind.
Yes, this
But
is Callie. So she's our customer care hero, and she is always in our chat room as well. She's taking care of our customers, and she is the one who now does all of our keyword research for both live and our recorded videos. I sent her through your trainings because I had only made my way through a partial amount of them, and I was too busy, and I was like, okay, when Callie came on, she went through all of your training and now she does a better job at it than I did. So there you go.
well, Callie, I just want to first apologize for the amount of puns you've had to hear then, and you'll hear coming forward. But I think that is an important part. Having those heroes, having those moderators, and I thank you for touching on that. You know,
Absolutely.
Speaking of mods, you want to value their time as well as figuring out timing in general. So this next question comes from Bob Gentle, and the question is, what's kind of a sweet spot in stream length? Is there a sweet spot? I know we talked about a little bit about how gaming you can tend to go longer, but what would
Right.
you say if you're starting would be that ideal sweet spot for a stream?
For most people, so what you need to understand is that between 10 and 20 minutes and really 18 to 20 minutes is where your peak is going to happen. And so that means that the majority of people are going to join you around that 20-minute mark, meaning that if you cut it off at 10, you just lost out on the potential of so many more people. And if you keep it going too long, it's actually not bad. So there can be a negative to too short, and then there can be a really there's no negative to keeping it going too long except for the replay,
Hmm.
because YouTube and Facebook and everybody else likes you to keep people on your stream for as long as possible or on their platform, right? So you can go 45 minutes, you can go an hour for a regular stream if you can keep that going, if you can talk that long. I know I can. And then, but people who are watching, while you may have a bit of a drop off, you'll also discover that 40 minutes, 47 minutes in there, you're going to have another wave of people coming in. And so it's okay to keep it going a little bit longer. But in terms of the ideal length, it again depends on what kind of content are you creating and what's appropriate for that content. Don't drag it on just because you think you need to hit a time.
Exactly. And I also think when you start streaming, I know I was guilty of this, is like it's deceptively easy
Yeah.
looking. But then you're in front of camera and you're like, huh, well, I'm
What do I
here.
say?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, just looking at and keeping in mind that you can have those second waves. You can have that first wave. And I think that's something that's really important to mention because it's something I didn't know starting
Yeah.
myself.
When you're just starting, if you're freaking out 10 minutes in, then and you're like, I need to end this, then end it. Be okay with just getting started and just moving forward. That's 1000% okay. So if when you're just starting, you're like, I don't think I can talk for that long. It's okay. You'll get there. And almost immediately, you'll find that 20, 30 minutes goes by so quickly.
I know. I know I still do. Like, I can't believe we've been live for 40 minutes. It feels like we've
Yeah,
been talking for five.
I
So-
know.
but
Don't make
that's
me go.
if you want to see more than no, I'm joking. But this next question, I guess, is kind of a continuation. And this comes from Coder Foundry, and their question is a good idea then to fill that first 10 to 15 minutes with less valuable content until we hit that peak?
No, because you've got to think about the replay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you need to do what you want to do for the live stream and not have a replay of it. So again, going back to strategy, there are different purposes for different streams. And so what you do within that stream based on the intention of it, not only live, but also after the fact, then that is what you need to do, right? So in our Q&A streams, we unlist those. Those are not for public consumption after the fact, just because they're not going to be searchable. And then they're not going to gain us a new audience, really. But our tutorial videos, our streams, I pack in information immediately so that the replay is actually beneficial for growing my channel.
And I think that's a very smart kind of way to look at it. Another benefit, especially to live streams, and I guess this is a question I have for you, and we've been experimenting, and we've actually found some decent success, is if you are going to do a longer live stream, maybe try playing around with chapters, because that's a newer YouTube feature where you can jump directly to like that piece of information someone's looking for. This stream, for example, I know we're going to use chapters. So if you're watching that replay, there's chapters in the description and pinned comments. So just I'm sorry it took you so long, but it's something we plan to do. But it's a thing that can help, especially if you know they're going to provide value. That way your audience can choose what they need. And that still provides value in that replay.
Absolutely. Yeah. We keep meaning to implement chapters.
I just wish it was easier. I mean, like, the thing, especially for lives, is I know there are ways in the back end, but it's something that YouTube's still working on. But, speaking of things in the back end, one question we got is, are there any bots for YouTube live streams that you're aware of? Like Twitch has bots and things like that. Are there any?
So Stream Elements and Streamlabs both, I believe, have bots. We use those in our channel. So Abby Bot will come up and pop up and say some things. And I'd have to ask my team whether it's Stream Element. We use Stream Elements, but I think both Streamlabs and Stream Elements has those.
And I'll make sure to link those in the description, again, bringing value there. But just so you guys know, too, and I think that's a good question. And hey, maybe we'll start experimenting with them at TubeBuddy.
Yeah, for sure. They're super useful for reminders, as well as providing links, things like that. So they're not quite as good, in my opinion, as like the Twitch bots and things, but they'll get there, I'm sure.
From Star Academy for Gamers, one of our mods says, Chapter 12, mods invade Luria's live stream. So we do have a question from Alex Coates. How do you use chapters on YouTube? The way you need to use them is, depending the length of the stream, you need to actually have like 00:00 to whatever timestamp. We'll put a mods, if you can link that'd actually be a great example of mods in work. But there's stuff from YouTube that explains it. It's actually really simple. So they work very well, and they make it easier for that user.
Yeah. It's just time consuming to do.
As a creator, yes, but I have found the value's worth it.
Yeah.
But man, it's like, it shouldn't be like taxes, though. That's how I feel. It feels like I'm doing taxes.
Yeah, great.
3D printer creator says TubeBuddy should help with a smarter way to make chapters. I guess the problem with that would be is there are so many different video lengths, and to analyze each video would probably be a very high paid feature. So if you guys would be okay with that, that is a potential. But chapters for live streams, what we've found personally, can be very beneficial. So that is something, especially in a live stream like this, that we could definitely consider and look into.
Yeah. If only we could do chapters for live about what's coming up and actually stick to those time codes.
Right.
That would be incredible. Can you help with that, Andrew?
Can we predict the future? Not yet, but
darn it.
According to Pesky Maestro, it says YouTube has bots like Nightbot. I actually haven't seen anyone use Nightbot. I've seen it on Twitch, but never YouTube. But maybe I just need to look deeper into it.
Maybe. Thank you for the tip.
Yeah, I'm always down to learn new things. But, speaking of learning new things, this next question was asked to us from our YouTube community. And the question was, live streaming is a new thing for me. What is an easy software you would recommend to help me go live?
So I'll break it down into what we call the 4 levels of live streaming. So level 1 is your phone. You cannot go live on YouTube unless you have 1,000 subscribers from the phone, but you can from the desktop, which is level 2. So going live from just YouTube.com, Facebook.com, any browser cloud-based service. And then level 3 is where we get into having more professional streams so that you have downloaded software onto your computer. On a Mac, we recommend Ecamm, and on a PC, we recommend vMix. And we have training for all of that stuff. But yeah, so Mac, Ecamm, PC, vMix. Those are the 2 best softwares that we have found, and we've tried them all, put them all through their paces. And for the majority of users, those are going to be the most consistent options for you.
Yeah, and I like a lot of those options. There's also a lot of free options too in there. So
Yeah.
that's a good mix of what you have and ways you can improve. Like, for example, we're using StreamYard for this, if
Yeah.
anyone was wondering, and they have a free version. So there is just a few options, and I like having them, especially here, because when we use those chapters, people are going to be like, wow, it took them chapter 19 to talk there, but we got there. So I have one here from I'm Mark Jr. Question for gaming streamers. Can it be a good idea to switch things up and play different games during the streams, or take a break and play something non-gaming related? So they're asking, I know where I kind of stand on this, but I'm curious where you would stand on this.
So that would be called a variety streamer if you do some games and you do other things as well. So to answer the first part of that question, yeah, play different games, get your audience used to something else, because down the road, thinking forward, you don't want to be roped into a single game. Although you can make a name for yourself around a single game, you also want to make sure that your audience understands that you are going to wind up playing another game at some point in your career. Ninja, encountered problems around that for sure. So the other part of that is, should you break and do some non-gaming things? Absolutely. It depends on your audience, right? And what intention you want to bring to your audience. And that can definitely be great. Or it can be exactly the opposite of what people want. So you need to be very clear in the structure of your show, if it's pure gaming or if it's more of a variety show. And it can be mostly gaming, but you can also do things like, Diva. Diva. Shoot. Oh,
I've been
I'm
there.
sorry,
So
Diva.
while
Anyway, she does a fantastic job at like integrating games, but also other things like fantasy makeup and things like that. So yeah, so you can do a lot of different things from that perspective, but your audience needs to understand who you are, is my
and
opinion.
where I come from, I guess that on YouTube, you have to remember people tend to come for one thing.
That's
So
true.
I call this like a lease, right? I call it like leasing a car. Like, especially if you're a gaming channel, you could start, let's say you playing The Last of Us 2, you're streaming that, it came out recently, you just want to really talk about that. You need an exit strategy and a transitional strategy too, because if it's just, all right, you've loved me for The Last of Us content, well, now I'm doing Cooking Mama, so enjoy. It's like, well, that's a very hard stop difference, right? So it's your job as a creator to, one, find a way to naturally pivot that doesn't feel super jarring as the audience. And also, if you're a gaming streamer and you're only focusing on the live, that's fine. But if you're streaming on your gaming channel and you want them to come back and you want them to check out regular content, you have to remember most gamers come for the game first, stay for the personality.
Yeah.
So find that balance that's healthy for you. I'm Mark Jr. And I'm not saying you have to stay with that game forever, but it's understanding you're leasing it. It's the car you're driving. It doesn't mean it's the only car you're ever going to get. But for right now, if you pop all 4 tires and give up on that car, well, then the audience was there for that car. So
Yeah.
understand the value.
That's a good way to phrase it. Video game diva, thank you, your tech coach, one of my moderators as well. I'm so sorry, on Twitch.
No worries. So this next one comes from gluten-free SR, which is tips on staying positive when streaming to a few viewers who don't chat. So they have viewers, but they're not the most engaged. Like I've seen a few of our friends have massive streams, but maybe there's like 10 to 20 people that are active and vocal.
Yeah.
So what would you say when you have a large audience, but maybe only a few are chatting, or even you have a smaller and only a few? What's your advice there? How do you stay positive?
First of all, it takes time. We all have this mentality of, I want everything right now. And you have to set yourself with some expectations that that process of getting them to engage is going to take some time. 6 months. I'm not talking 2 weeks. I'm talking 6 months. So go in it for the long haul. But beyond that, you can absolutely do some things to make sure you're getting more engagement, and you have to have a real hard look at you. And are you being engaging, like we were talking about before, in order to get that engagement? Are you adding your own personality into it, or is it pretty dry information? Is it fun? Are you having fun? If you're not having fun, they're not going to have fun. Are you asking for the engagement? A lot of people think they're not, that they are asking, but what they'll say is, tell me what you think about this. That's not asking for engagement, because viewers are multitasking and you have to get their attention. And so, like, get specific with your question. Hey, I think this. Do you agree? Yes or no is a really simple way to get that first engagement, but also ask specific questions. I think elephants are the greatest animal on the planet. Do you agree or not? And tell me which animal you think is the greatest on the planet.
Well,
Get
I actually think
specific.
there are better animals.
Oh, well,
And then
fun.
I'm, and you see, and now we've got engagement.
Exactly. And then it can start a war, right? Which is a great thing. Like, if you can get people pitted against each other about food, dogs, pets of any kind, animals, kids, like whatever. If you can get people talking, food is often a fantastic one, because people have very strong opinions about it, and it's not something like politics that's going to get people like mean,
Yeah.
right? So you can absolutely pit people against each other, get people talking, and you have to look at how you're asking for that, and are you being engaging?
Yeah, and speaking of asking simple questions, if you've made it this far, let us know. Should pineapple be on pizza? Yes or no? That
No, absolutely not. No.
and
See what I
see,
mean?
but that it goes back to, if you want better engagement, you need to ask better, more specific questions. And I think
Yes.
that is a good example of that. I know we're going to get some people who are going to definitely let us know
Oh, Dole
they're
Whip says
strong.
dogs over cats. I'd
Look at
agree
the
with that.
Yes, but we're getting a lot of different opinions on pineapple on pizza. But that's a great example of an engagement. That's a good question, because there are some diehards who love it, and then there are people who are wrong. Who don't. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I
Right?
don't have that
Right,
strong of an
exactly.
opinion.
I'm very disappointed in the amount of yeses that are coming through here. But and this is the other piece to that, right? So some people think, well, what the heck? My content is not about pineapple pizza. It doesn't have to be. That is the secret. That is the secret to getting engagement. You integrate stories, things, pet peeves, interests, foods, cats, dogs, whatever, into your content so that it gets that engagement. You may not get engagement right off the bat about your content. That's a hard pill to swallow. But what you can really easily get engagement on is the personal side of things. So if you start to integrate that into stories, examples, jokes, pitting people against each other, like we were talking about, all of that stuff, that will get that started. And then it's a snowball effect. And then you'll find that people actually want to engage with your actual content.
And again, it's a broader topic that lets people in, right? One thing I tell people, especially when it comes to creating YouTube content, is you don't want nothing but windows, which means you can look in, but you can't ever be active.
Right.
You want to give them doors so they can open it and become part of that conversation. And our chat blew up with just a simple question. So I
Exactly.
think that's a great example of getting that engagement by asking more specific questions.
Yeah.
So we have another question. This one comes from 3D Print Creator, and I see this a lot. And I'm glad you asked this because they're like, how to boost numbers on streamers? Like you have 384,000 subscribers on TubeBuddy, but 171 views live. So that's actually a really good question. I have my own thoughts and opinions on this, but what would you say on questions like this?
So there's a ratio of your subscribers who, are going to join live. And that's not a bad ratio. Like, so, in terms of ratios that you're going for, it drops the higher your subs, because your subs aren't going to all be there for that live content. They're not going to get the notification in time. Like, live is not going to have the same numbers as, 24 hours on your recorded videos. But it is a more powerful draw of that stuff, right? So one thing that you can do is to increase it, is to promote it in advance, is to make sure that people understand that you go live at a specific day and time so that they can get it on their calendars. Be consistent with that. Make sure that your recorded videos actually talk about your live streams and when you're going live, the value that they get from actually showing up live. Oftentimes, some people don't join live streams because they don't know that they're actually going to get anything. Somebody said earlier, hold on, that they were having so much fun on this stream. I can't find the comment, but they were having so much fun on this stream, and they only came for live streaming tips. So a lot of people may come for the promise in that title, but they'll learn that they actually have more fun over time. And so it's a balancing act of promotion, but also getting people to get there so that they know that they're going to love it next time as well.
And I like that. I think that that is a great piece of advice because the more you do it, the better you get at it. The more you go and the more you understand, the better that you become at this in general. I think your advice was solid.
Thanks. I'll take
So,
it. I got a gold star.
yes, I see. I just liked Ike's comment here. I much prefer my pizza on my pineapples. So, there's a third option apparently.
I didn't even think about that.
But this next question comes again from I'm Mark Jr. And their question is, can streams affect the YouTube algorithm when it comes to videos you upload? Is it possible that YouTube might advertise your videos less than your live streams? I hope this is worded fine. Ooh, I have some strong opinions and data to
Go
back
for
this
it.
up.
Go for it.
Just like any piece of content you put out on this platform, YouTube is comparing your upload because once it's a replay, if you choose to make it a replay, you can always unlist. But if you leave it as a replay, YouTube looks at your last 10 pieces of content and how they perform. If it doesn't perform as much or as well, YouTube's going to take that into consideration. That's not to say you shouldn't stream. It's just something to keep in mind. Live streams and uploads, YouTube has now classified as two separate things on the YouTube dashboard for a reason. A bad live stream, meaning that you were live for an hour with 0 viewers, so you don't have that watch time you can kind of hurt. But you have to understand you're taking that risk when you go. It doesn't mean it's not worth the risk. Because if you have a stream like this, that is getting a lot of people watching. We started with 110, we're at 180, and we're growing and growing. It just really depends. It's all based on your viewers, because if we do this stream and then we make a video that's about a free TubeBuddy feature that can help you earn more views, doesn't matter how this stream performs because YouTube already knows the audience that's going to love that video and it's going to send it out to them. So it can, but that's where you as a creator have to really understand your audience, really understand the video you're releasing, and it's your job as that creator to understand that.
Love that answer. And also think about when you upload, right? And I would love to hear some data on this, Andrew, but when you upload things in relation to your live streams, and that balance. Like, for example, last week we had a goof, and we actually uploaded something accidentally right before our live stream. Not good for that video, right? Because they're
No,
getting two different notifications within a very short period of time.
because you told YouTube that there's a new piece of content that they should tell your viewers about instead.
Yeah.
So in that case, that's a great example of you learn, and you could just re-upload the video, but it's already been sent out, so that
Yeah.
could also look bad. So that was a learning experience.
Right. Yeah. And so, what do you say when, in terms of length of time between, based on TubeBuddy research, like length of time between a live stream and a recorded video?
Bare minimum 48 hours, and that's just so it gives both of your pieces of content time to breathe. And think about it from a viewer perspective. Obviously, if you're a gaming channel going live every day, that's different. But if you have like a live stream versus a traditional video piece of content, we usually say about 48 hours, so that if people want to see that replay, they have the time to check it out, and that it's not overwhelming. Because think about it this way: people don't usually catch up to a TV show they watch if they miss 2 to 3 episodes. Imagine missing 14 videos from a creator. You're like, well, I'm just so far behind. I guess I'm just going to have to miss this one. And that's
Yeah.
never an experience you want your viewer to feel.
Good point. Yeah.
So hopefully that answers your question. I'm Mark Jr. This next one, actually, I think is a good one. Again, coming from Coder Foundry, they're saying, is it a good idea to recut parts of a live stream and upload those? What are your thoughts on like repurposing parts of live streams?
Absolutely. This is something that you can really think about ahead of time. And if you plan your streams and the content that you're going to do, you can actually create sections. And I talk about the show flow a lot, where I walk you through a structure in terms of how to deliver content and get engagement and have a balance. If you think about the content that you might want to actually cut down and release as a separate video, whether that's on YouTube or any other social platform, then what you could do is not engage during that time, so that you have a clean cut and something that's really strategic, both during live and after. But also, Nick Nimmin popped on one of our streams like last Friday or something, and it wasn't planned, nothing. And he was in chat, and I was like, "Hey, come on!" And he came on, and so we had a great conversation, and something I didn't promote because I didn't know it was going to happen, But I'm clipping that out so that we can then release it as a separate video, because it was so freaking valuable, and I don't want anybody to miss it. So there are a lot of options there.
And I like that because, you talked about reasons to be live. You can also clip and be like, hey, if you guys weren't in the last live stream, guess who stopped by? Nick Nimmin. So that's
Hello.
repurposing it
Yeah.
in multiple ways. And it goes back to that fear of missing out. It's like, oh no, I missed this live streaming pro stream, and then I missed Nick Nimmin.
Right?
Which reminds me, it's time to. I just bring in Nick. So.
That would be awesome.
I think Nick would be like, Andrew, why are you FaceTiming me? It's like 3 a.m. in Thailand.
Yeah. I feel like I'm going back to bed.
But I love that advice, because it's something you can even do in your own uploads too, like thinking of chapters or thinking of transitional points to where if you want to repurpose, you have natural cuts. And that's so smart. It's thinking of it more like not only a streamer, but kind of like an editor as well.
Yeah. You kind of have to have those different hats on at all times, unfortunately.
So we have this question from 3D Print. Oh, well, if I can get it to pull, there we go. And they say, so that raises the question, what is better, recutting the video or making markers? So that's really up to you on how you want to use that, right? Like I just said with Luria, like we could essentially use that Nick Nimmin piece as a promo to come to the live, so you don't miss moments like that. Or you can let them be their own standalone video. There is no right or wrong answer. It's what you wish to do on it.
Yeah. And play with some different options. See what works best for you.
Exactly. Dole with Dad says, great info. Glad I was able to catch this one.
We're glad you're here.
Exactly. And
by the way, speaking of which, I haven't seen you on our streams lately. Where have you been? Huh?
And you see, this is why you don't want to miss a stream.
I'm going to call you out. I pay attention to who's showing up and who's not.
You see, but this comes into me like me personally. I always I don't really comment on streams, but I watch them because I'm like doing a million things. You're a great. I actually tend to watch a lot of your streams as TubeBuddy, but I never comment, so that's
Oh.
my fault. I'll be honest. I'll fully admit.
See, but that's actually something that you have to realize happens. I have so many people that I admire that I've not connected with yet that wind up telling me later on down the road, yeah, I watch all your live streams. I'm like, where have you been? I didn't know this. And then I'm like, oh my God, the pressure. And then, but other things come out of it. So, what my point is when you think that you only have 2 viewers or 15 viewers and you're like, oh, this may not be worth it, remember that you have no idea who is watching. Because I have seen time and time again on my own streams and our students' streams the fact that people are watching who don't ever comment, and those people tend to be the people who will change your world in different ways, financially, business wise, personally, whatever that happens to be. There's so many times that this happens and you have no idea it's happening. So show up like you mean it every single time.
And I love that advice. And some this is we had a couple of questions. This is from It's Smart Gamer, like show up as you mean it every time. So It's Smart Gamer, they're a quiet person when they stream for some reason. Is there a way to fix that? They're wondering, like they're trying to show up, but they're just kind of naturally a quiet person. What is the advice you'd give it? Another question I saw we got earlier and we got from the chat here is I'm more introverted. How do I get out of my shell? So I think that's in that same vein.
Hi, I'm Luria Petrucci, and I am probably one of the most shyest people you've ever met. I know you don't believe me. I know you don't believe me, but in school I was called a snob because I couldn't talk to people. I literally didn't know how to talk to people until I started doing video and live streams. And I forced myself into this world of having to be energetic and be an extrovert on camera. When I'm at a party or at a conference, like Andrew, I was telling you this last time we were talking. I was like, I tried to say hi to Andrew and he didn't hear me, and I just like I just wanted to go hide in a corner
I'm
because
sorry.
no, it's not your fault. But I was thinking about that earlier today, and I was like, I was being shy, and that's my core being. I am a shy person. But nobody ever believes me when I say it. I don't know why. I mean, I only dance on camera all the time and my countdown timers and
And your
whatever.
hair is so quiet.
I know, right? But this is so good for YouTube thumbs. I can't even tell you. But the point being, like, you have it in you, and you identify as an introvert or as a shy person or as a quiet person. So do I. But there's this version of me that is true to who I am at a core being, but it's a more energetic person that I'm able to tap into. There are a couple of things that I want to share with you. One, there's a book that I would highly, highly encourage you to look into called Alter Ego, or no, sorry, The Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman. And this is a perfect example of somebody who was watching my streams who I have no idea who was. And he actually bought my course, and I was like, wait, he's paying attention to me because I freaking adore his work. And he talks about the alter ego effect, where you actually can tap into somebody more powerful inside of you that you don't understand is there just yet, but it is there. And he gives you solutions for doing so. I'm actually going to be on his show, and he's going to be on my show very soon in August. But also, the other thing is, I would invite you to join me on my Lita Challenge live every day in August, because what I do is I push you to find your uniquely you self that brings your personality out on camera and engages the audience better, because we're tapping into who you are as a core person and not just creating this person that you don't feel comfortable being. Does that make sense?
No, I think it does. And I think in a lot of
Yes.
cases, just by going live, you can become even more confident on camera, which
Yes.
directly helps your content you upload. Because one thing that I've gotten better at since going live is just delivery to camera. It's not so foreign anymore. It's understanding, hey,
Mhm.
those numbers, the 191 of you watching now, it's fluctuating, but we'll just go with that. Those are real people that are
Yeah,
giving us their time. And I think that's
exactly.
something that's so easy to forget. And I know as an introvert that can be scary, but it's also a great opportunity to remind yourself that, hey, there are people like me out there. And
Yeah.
finding the best version of me and helping myself do that is freeing.
Yeah. And in doing live, so live has actually made me a better person, meaning I am better at communication in my life and in my business. I am better at going with the flow. I'm better at being, in public when I am a shy person. I'm better a business owner because I now understand that I like with live you have to learn how to be on the fly. And live teaches you such valuable skills that in my business, when things aren't working, it's not a failure. It's a, oh, I just got to roll with the flow. Oh, I got to learn, I got to use these skills I know how to do in live and do that in business, right? So there's a lot of things that live actually teaches you. And so I would encourage you to push through those challenges because it's so worth it at the end of the day.
Agreed. And I like how Oren Z. Belgrave Sr. says, if you can, I can. That's my whole thing. If I can, you
Exactly.
can too, right? So, if people want to learn more about you, Luria, where can they go?
livestreamingpros.com. There's our YouTube channel, youtube.com/livestreamingpros. I would love, love, love to see you on our Tuesday through Friday streams, as well as we do recorded videos once to twice a week. And if you want to learn how to create a video studio that works for both live and recorded video at a flip of a button and push button simple. That's what we teach you inside of our workshop at livestreamingpros.com/studio.
All linked in the description down below. And hey, I'm Andrew Cannon. If I can use these TubeBuddy tools to help grow YouTube channels, you can use the exact same tool to grow your YouTube channel.
And
So,
I want to
Luria,
just say thank you to TubeBuddy because we have seen a lot of growth due to you guys. So thank you for that.
thank you so much. That means a lot. And to everyone watching, thank you so much. Check out Luria in the description down below. And that's it
You're
for
welcome.
us.